welcome to my channel. I hope you are having a really lovely day. This is Annie Page's Pages with me, Annie Page, where I talk about books. First of all, I want to apologise for the lighting. The Christmas tree is blocking all of the natural light and the lights on the tree are just completely throwing off the balance. So this looks so grainy and awful, but I wanted the Christmas tree in the background because it is Christmas after all, so please forgive the lighting. Today's video is going to be me talking about some books that are releasing next month in January 2025. There are a mix of young adult and adult, but all of the adult books I think would be suitable for YA. Obviously I haven't read them, so I can't give much of a verdict on that. But I am someone who primarily reads young adult, and these are books that I would be comfortable picking up based on the synopsis. Obviously, I don't know the writing style, I don't know the content, but just from like the blurb and the vibes that I'm getting, they're books that I would feel comfortable picking up and I wouldn't feel too overwhelmed by the style of writing. So there are 9 books in total. I'm going to go through them in release order, and yeah, let's just get into it because I'm so excited to share these books with you. So the first book releasing on the 2nd of January is A Language in Dragons by S.F. Williamson. So this is a sort of historical fantasy. It's set in wartime England, but it also has a fantastical element in the fact that it contains dragons. Historical fantasy is a genre that I'm not too keen on. I did actually DNF a book last night that was historical fantasy, but I'm willing to give this one a go. So the themes in this novel are dragons, strong female leads, linguistics, deciphering secrets, immersive worlds, corruption and friendship. And there were 2 taglines that I could find. The first one being, every act of translation requires a sacrifice, which gives me Babel vibes. Just the talk about like translation and what it really means. Obviously this is focusing on dragons, so it's not quite the same as Babel, but it just gave me that vibe. And the second tagline is, welcome to Bletchley Park with dragons. So I recently went to Bletchley Park with my partner and my siblings. It's quite a way away from us. It was a long drive, but I've always wanted to go. It's something I was really interested in finding out a bit more about, but let me give you a synopsis. So this book starts London 1923. Dragons soar through the skies and protests erupt in the street, but the main character that we're following, Vivian, is not worried. She's going to follow the rules, get a job studying dragon languages, and make sure that her younger sister grows up wanting for nothing. But by midnight, Viv has started a civil war. Her parents are arrested and her younger sister is missing. So when somebody offers her a mysterious job, she knows that she has to take up the offer. And then she arrives at Bletchley Park to find out that the job is actually a code breaker for the war effort. And if she succeeds, she gets to go home with her family, and if she fails, they will all die. Initially, Viv is under the impression that her task is to decode dragon languages, but the more she decodes, the more she learns. She isn't quite sure what the actual war is that is being fought. So like I said, this one, I don't know if the historical side is just going to be too dull for me. And like I said, I'm interested in the war, but a lot of writing in historical fantasy novels, it's quite dense. It's a difficult read, so it just depends on how it's written, whether I'm gonna like this one or not, but I have added it to my wish list and I really do hope to get my hands on it soon. The next book, which comes out on the 7th of January, is A Sea of Unspoken Things by Adrienne Young. I am yet to pick up a book by Adrienne Young, but I know she has quite a lot and they're all of a very similar vibe. They are all very well spoken of. I just haven't yet got around to reading one, but I have actually recently bought Spells for Forgetting, which is one of her previous novels. So hopefully soon I will have an idea of whether this author is for me or not. But back to A Sea of Unspoken Things. So this is pitched as a fantasy thriller mystery that is quite emotional and dark. It explores themes of family secrets, family drama, grief, loss, and strong sibling bonds. And let me just read you the tagline. It says, a woman investigates her brother's mysterious death while coming to terms with her own haunting past. So we follow main character James, who has a very, very strong, close bond with her twin brother Johnny. So when he dies in a tragic accident, she knows before she knows that he has died. She feels it inside. She knows something has happened. So when her phone rings and they actually say your brother has passed away, she isn't surprised, but she is like truly broken. She has to travel to rural California to sort out his affairs, go through his things, all of that horrible stuff that has to happen after a close person dies. And whilst doing that, she is forced to relive a secretive past that her and her brother share, and also face a mysterious figure from her past who, let me just remind myself of his name, Micah. So he is the only person that she has ever loved, but obviously something has happened there. She hasn't seen him in a long time, and he also knows the secrets of James and Johnny. But the more that she learns about her brother's life while she is going through his affairs, the more she realises she didn't quite know Johnny the way that she thought she did. As she pushes to discover what happened leading up to Johnny's death, the more she is conflicted with whether truth needs to come to the surface or whether it needs to stay buried. I am really intrigued. I'm not sure this is one of my most anticipated books. I'm interested, but I don't know if the contemporary is going to be stronger than the fantasy, and I'm really into the fantasy elements. So if we're really focusing on the contemporary setting and it's only a little bit of the supernatural, then it probably isn't going to be for me, but I am willing to give it a try. But let me know your thoughts on this book. Is this something that you're really excited to read? And have you read other Adrienne Young books before? Is she one of your go-to authors? Is there a book you would recommend me picking up first? Obviously I have spells for forgetting, but I could pick up another one sooner, so let me know in the comments. So also on the 7th, was the last book on the 7th? Yes, it was. I thought for a second, oh my God, what is it, the 4th? And now I just sound like an idiot. So on the 7th is The Vanishing Bookstore by Helen Pfeiffer. I have actually pre-ordered this one. I'm really interested. If you are a Kindle reader, currently at the time of filming, it is $1.99 to pre-order on Kindle. So obviously, I don't know when you're watching this, so it might have gone back up, but at the time of filming, at the time of posting, it is currently $1.99. So this book is also historical fantasy. For someone who doesn't like historical fantasies, I'm anticipating a lot of them next month. But this is also said to be enchanting, magical, atmospheric, which are things that are right up my street. This is also a magical realism story. It has family secrets, a mystery. It's about the power of stories. I think this is going to be really cozy, really atmospheric, very descriptive, very beautiful. That's what I'm expecting from this story. And the tagline for this is everybody needs a happy ending, but you can't have yours until you find the bookstore. So the story starts in 1962 in Salem, and a young girl is inside a bookstore burying a journal beneath the floorboards, and then she hears the sound of hounds in the background and she flees. And as she does, the bookstore disappears. It vanishes. It's The Vanishing Bookstore. And then we go to current day, where our main character, Dora, is eagerly anticipating meeting her mother for the first time since she was a child. She was under the impression that her mother had died when she was a child, but she has since found out that that is not the case, and she is ready to meet her mother. But her hopes are very quickly dashed when her mother says to you, "My life is in danger and now so is yours." Dora is desperate to keep on to the mother that she has just found. So she explores the secrets of her family history based off what her mother has told her, and realizes that the key to her family's survival lies within this vanishing bookstore. So she must now search for this bookstore in order to save her mum, save herself, I'm not sure, but that is the task, to find the bookstore. And as she does, we as readers realize that somebody is watching her and somebody is waiting for her. This ever so slightly gives me the Lost Apothecary vibes, which I didn't actually like. I think that was more the writing and just the way the book was formatted that wasn't for me. The plot was something I was interested in. I just didn't like how it was delivered. So maybe this will be what I thought The Lost Apothecary was going to be. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this one and get my hands on it. The next book comes out on the 9th, and it is North is the Night by Emily Rath. This is another one that I'm really excited for, and this one is young adult. I lied, it's not, it's adult. So again, this is historical fiction, but it's also quite heavy on the fantasy element. So I believe this has historical elements, but I don't think it is set in a historical setting. I don't know though, I haven't read it, but I am very, very excited about it. This is dark, but it is immersive, it is emotional, it's atmospheric, it's mysterious, and it is adventurous. So this is solely based around Scandinavian culture. I'm very much into Scandinavian culture. It is a little bit of an obsession of mine, you might say. So the fact that this is set in the Finnish wilderness, immediately I have to try it. Also features a sapphic romance, which is another big box tick for me. Also explores complex identity, grief, loss, morality, the right and wrong of your choices, and the power of the human spirit. So the tagline for this is that 2 young women defy the gods, living and dead, human and mortal, which I'm so excited for this. I can't pretend that I am not so desperate to get my hands on this book. So like I said, this book is set in the Finnish wilderness and it follows Siri and Aina. I believe it might be Aina. I think Aina sounds better. Aina. It's A-I-N-A. I'm going to say Aina. Siri and Aina. Let's go with that. If anybody can correct me, then please do. But that's what I'm going to go with. There is a lot of, I was going to say dispeace. I don't think dispeace. Like disruption in the peace of the Finnishness. This is so bad. There is a lot of disruption going on. The Swedes are trying to take their land. There is like a priest spouting shit and young women are disappearing. So things aren't hunky-dory. All of a sudden, Aina is taken by a death goddess. She is taken to the underworld and Siri is desperate to get her back. At this point, they are friends. There is no romance to my knowledge. This is a friendship and she is desperate to get her best friend back. So Siri begins a journey to find a shaman who has the ability to enter the underworld and return back alive. Whilst this is happening, Aina is in the underworld, and I believe this is dual perspective because it says that she is being tortured by this like death goddess who is a witch. And whilst there, she learns that the king of the underworld has plans for her and she plans to use her intelligence to manipulate the situation to try and escape. So these are 2 things going on. One is trying to get out, one is trying to get in, and I am so interested to learn what happens. The underworld setting as well sounds like that's going to be really atmospheric, really dark, like a really great place to read about. But also the other setting of the Finnish wilderness, I feel like that's just going to be so cozy, but also like she's journeying, so like really bitter, really cold. I just feel like the descriptions in this book are going to be just so immersive to read. So I am so excited to pick this one up. Obviously as well, it's a sapphic romance, it's Scandinavian, it features the underworld. I am so excited for this book. On the 14th, Watermoon is being released by Samantha Soto Yambao. Apologies if I got that wrong. My legs hurt, so I'm just gonna like relax a little bit while I talk to you. So this is a cozy fantasy. I'm a bit hit and miss with cozy fantasy. I've read some and immediately DNF'd, but I've also loved some. So the TJ Klune books, I do this every time. I don't know why I can't say books. I really like TJ Klune's books. I recently read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches and really enjoyed that. So some cozy fantasy like really hits the mark for me, whereas some of it, I just find it a little bit too like flowery. There's not enough depth, there's not enough substance. I need to love the characters. It can't just be like all environment. So I'm hoping that that one will obviously be what I'm hoping for. I hope it will be what I'm hoping for. Wow, amazing. This one follows a woman in Tokyo who has recently inherited a pawn shop. This is not an ordinary pawn shop. This is a pawn shop that deals in regrets and life choices. So you come and pawn them and I don't have a clue what you get back, but that is the premise. And on her first day at the pawn shop, she turns up to discover it has been ransacked and her father is missing. Also, I immediately presumed when reading the synopsis that she inherited it from her parents who were deceased, but obviously her father is around. So I wonder who she inherited the pawn shop from. Because obviously it could be a grandparent, but then why wouldn't it go directly to her parents? Like, who knows? Something I'll have to discover when I read it. Then a charming stranger who is unlike any other customer she has ever had before comes into the shop, and he isn't looking to exchange anything. He isn't wanting to give any regrets away. I already have theories, but I'm not going to go into them in this video. Hopefully when I get my hands on it, I will be able to discuss my theories a little bit more in depth with you. Now is not the time. But he comes in and offers to help find... Oh, I completely forgot to say, when the shop was ransacked, the most expensive, special, amazing acquisition regret choice that they have has been taken. So he offers to help her find it. And as they are going on this journey, our main character, Hannah, or Hannah, I'm not sure. Hannah. And as she is going on this journey, our main character, it's Hannah. As she is going on this journey, our main character, Hannah, is keeping some secrets of her own, and they might have to come to light. This sounds kind of low stakes, kind of high stakes, you know, that sort of cozy fantasy in the middle where it's high stakes, but it's just done so lighthearted and it's just so nice to be in. This is apparently quite weird and wonderful and whimsical, and that is what's drawing me to want to read this book. I love that sort of wonderful, whimsical, joyful vibe, even when it's discussing like quite dark or quite emotional things. The next book is a book that you will most likely have already heard of. This is quite a highly anticipated book here on the internet, and that is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. You're making little noises in the background, aren't you? Yes. Interrupted by the cat. It's Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix has lots of very popular, well-renowned books, and this one comes out on the 16th. I have yet to enjoy a Grady Hendrix book. I have DNF'd a few and disliked everyone that I have actually finished. So me and Grady Hendrix don't have a good track record. But this one is Witchcraft. I'm just fussing my cat. I'm very sorry. Excuse the cat that has now joined. This involves witchcraft, which is my favourite trope. I really enjoy witchcraft books. I'm very drawn to witchcraft books. So I am hoping that this is going to be the one that finally makes me and Grady Hendrix book friends. Let's see. So again, historical fiction. There is a clear trend here. Not sure what's going on. But this is the 70s, which I don't feel like is historical fiction. And yes, that is before I was born, but it doesn't feel historical. Like it's not wartime. Like historical to me is like before the 40s. Anything past that, it doesn't feel historical. I know it is the past, it is in history. It was a while ago, we're getting on 55 years since the 70s, but it just, I don't know, it's not historical to me. It's a familiar setting, even though I wasn't born in the 70s, it's still relatable, it's understandable, whereas like the Tudor period is beyond our living knowledge, whereas the 70s, like my mum was born in the 70s, my parents have lived through the 70s, it doesn't seem that far away. So anyway, this book follows a 15-year-old girl who is pregnant. Her name is Neva, and she is sent to Wayward House. Literally, no, she isn't. It's called Wellwood House. She is sent to Wellwood House, which is a place where they send unwed mothers. He is just the star of the show now. And then one day, a travelling librarian comes to the house and gives Neva a book and says it contains a way to regain power and also a little bit of revenge. But as everybody knows, witchcraft demands a sacrifice, so Neva must decide what price she is willing to pay for this power and for this revenge. That was a little bit of a brief synopsis. The blurb is quite vague for the book. It's not very specific, and I feel like there is a point to that. I feel like there are things that if they are included in the synopsis might give away like huge points of the book. So I'm okay going in quite vague because that sounds interesting to me. Next we have After Dark by E. Latimer, and that is coming out on the 16th of January. This is another book that I am really, really excited about. This is a queer horror. It is also a slightly Lovecraftian horror. I am not a fan of Lovecraft. I have read Lovecraft. I did not enjoy it, and then I have gone on to read some Lovecraftian horror and I did not enjoy it. But I am hoping that the other elements of this book will, my foot has gone numb, will sort of outdo the Lovecraftian. I'm hoping that the Lovecraftian features are not very strong Lovecraftian features, but we will see. And there is always a first, and maybe this will be the first Lovecraftian book that I enjoy. I'm gonna adjust my camera because I keep moving around. So this has an eerie, atmospheric, haunting, suspenseful tone, and I love that in a book. This is YA, should have said, and this has themes of feminine rage, a boarding school setting, self-discovery, and dark impulses. That is screaming, pick me up, pick me up, pick me up. I really want to pick this book up. I want it now. This is just going to be me getting really excited over books that I can't read yet. So the tagline for this book was literally queer horror at a boarding school, which doesn't really pack a punch, but this sounds interesting. So we are following a boarding school, which is called Northcroft, and it holds a dark secret in that every night the boarding school is shut down. So everything inside remains inside and everything outside remains outside. And the forest that surrounds Northcroft becomes a dark, twisty version of itself. And we follow a main character, Evie, who is holding a secret, such as the fact that she let her sister drown. And she is now plagued by dark impulses. Now she begins to develop an attraction to a fellow classmate who is Holland, and Holland starts to develop an attraction towards Evie. And as their attraction grows, something in the forest begins to call for them. And the pair have to decide whether they give in to the call and the dark impulses, or whether they fight it and protect each other. This sounds very, very interesting to me. I like the darkness, I like the sapphic romance, the dark impulses, and that like twisty, eerie. I love that. My like go-to books are sort of like a dark fairy tale vibe. You cannot snore in my video, my darling. You cannot. You cannot. Book number 8 is another adult book, and this is At the Bottom of the Garden by Camilla Bruce. I have read a lot of books by Camilla Bruce. One of my all-time favourites, which is You Let Me In, is by Camilla Bruce. So everything that she publishes, I will read. I will absolutely be loyal to her works of literature for the rest of my life. So this is another gothic horror. She tends to do gothic horror stories and I am obsessed, and this one sounds amazing. This follows Clara, who has killed her husband, and his body is resting at the bottom of her garden. She doesn't care. She gets on with her life. It does not bother her. It does not plague her. This is something that happened. I'm not sure why, but there he is, and she gets on with her life. No bother. But then her 2 nieces, Lily and Violet, have been sent to live with her. Their parents have died in a tragic accident. They are both very young. I believe they are like between like 8 and 12. And they have nowhere else to go. The will states that they must go to the nearest living relative, which is Clara. And Clara has no interest in children. She didn't want children of her own. She doesn't give a shit about children, let's be honest. But these children might have an inheritance. They might have jewellery, they might have money. She wants to get her hands on what these children have, so she willingly takes them in. Problem is, one of the girls can see the man at the bottom of the garden. And this child begins to summon other ghosts from Clara's past, and she has to deal with the consequences. I think that sounds bloody fantastic. Again, I feel like it's going to be dark. We're going to follow a character who probably isn't going to be likeable. They are going to be very morally ambiguous. Maybe not even morally ambiguous. They're a murderer who's trying to steal children's inheritance. So maybe not ambiguous. Maybe they are just morally corrupt. But I think that's going to be a really interesting character to follow. I feel like there will be humour in there. But also, if I know Camilla Bruce, she likes dark themes. And I feel like there will be elements of that in this. So I am just so intrigued to find out what happens in this book. So I will definitely be picking this book up at some point in 2025. And then finally, we have The Lamb by Lucy Rose, and this comes out on the 30th. This is another adult book. This one is a lot darker, a lot more literary, but I think maybe it might be more like approachable. I'm not sure. This is the one that I'm a bit like, is this going to be appropriate for YA, or is this just a little bit too much of literariness? Amazingly poor Annie. So this is a literary horror, and it follows Mama and Margot. So Margot lives with her mama, and they live in a forest. They are very isolated, but strangers come to visit their little cottage in the forest every now and again, and Mama calls them her strays. She loves her strays, she welcomes them in, she feeds them, she keeps them warm, she entertains them, and then she satisfies her appetite by picking their bodies clean. Then Erin comes to visit. That is a lie, she is called Eden. Eden comes to visit, and she is one of Mama's strays. But Margot begins to form a bond with Eden, and she is forced to consider that this way of life that she has been living in the forest with Mama, is this really the way that she wants to live? She must confront the reality of her existence and also untangle herself from this situation and see if she can find freedom somewhere. I think this is going to be very nuanced. I think it's going to be quite deep and explorative. I am so interested to read this. I think it's going to be dark and grim. And I like a bit of dark and grim, but as long as it's not too graphic. What is graphic? Graphic. I can't deal with body horror. I can't deal with gore, but I'm okay with dark and creepy as long as it's implied and it's not on page. So if this is quite gory and horrific, I would have to DNF it because it's just not for me. It makes me far too uncomfortable. But as long as it's implied and it's not in depth, then I will be okay with it. But I am just so intrigued to find out a little bit more about Mama and the strays and what is going on in this weird little cottage. So this is another one that I'm very excited to pick up. So that is it. I've been filming for 40 minutes and I've only spoken about 9 books. Hopefully I can edit it down to a lot less than 40 minutes. But if you are still here at the end of the video, then please leave me a little book emoji in the comments to let me know. And which one of these books are you the most interested in? And what is your most anticipated book for January? It doesn't have to be on this list, just one that maybe I haven't mentioned that you're really excited about. Let me know, because I love discovering new books and finding new things to read. Thank you very much for watching and spending some time with me today, and I hope I'll see you again in my next video. Goodbye from me and the cat.